smell like an opportunist.
Take my hand, or stay here and drown in your own tears for a coward.
Chapter 2. The Eye of the Storm. The rain did not just fall. It punished. Violent gusts of wind slammed torrential sheets of ice-cold water against Elena's shivering body, plastering her dark hair across her face and stinging her scraped skin. She remained crumpled on the sharp gravel, her fingers buried in the wet mud, her chest heaving with ragged, suffocating sobs. Every beat of her shattered heart brought fresh agony. The iron gates of Vance Manor loomed behind her like a monument to her humiliation, their cold, black bars barring her from the life she had waited 3 years to build. "You smell like an opportunist," Leo's sneering voice echoed in her ears, louder than the roaring thunder overhead. She squeezed her eyes shut, pressing her bruised palms against her temples, but she couldn't drown out the memory of his disgusted gaze. The boy who had promised to treasure her forever had thrown her out into the dirt like worthless garbage dots suddenly. Through the curtain of heavy rain and distant thunder, a low, guttural roar vibrated through the earth. Bright, blinding beams of halogen light cut through the pitch-black storm, washing over Elena's shivering form. She flinched, shielding her eyes with a trembling arm as the twin shafts of light illuminated the falling raindrops like million floating needles. A vehicle rolled to a stop on the narrow, slick access road, coming to a halt just feet away from where she knelt in the mud. It was not an ordinary car. It was a massive, pitch-black armored Maybach, its pristine obsidian paint reflecting the flashes of lightning above. The engine hummed with a quiet, menacing power, a subtle warning that whatever was inside commanded absolute authority. Elena froze. Her breath caught in her throat as a heavy, suffocating silence settled over the road, swallowing even the sound of the rain. Slowly, with a soft, mechanical hiss, the dark, heavily tinted rear window slid downward. The interior of the vehicle was shrouded in deep shadows. But as a streak of lightning illuminated the sky, a man's silhouette emerged from the darkness. He sat back in the plush leather seat, one long leg crossed over the other, holding a crystal tumbler of amber liquid in a gloved hand. His broad shoulders filled the frame, and his posture radiated a calm, terrifying dominance. When the light caught his face, Elena forgot how to breathe. He possessed a sharp, ruthlessly chiseled jawline, high cheekbones, and dark hair styled with effortless precision. But it was his eyes that anchored her in place. They were a rare, striking shade of hazel green, gleaming through the dark like those of a wild predator marking its prey. They held no warmth, no pity, only an intense, scorching curiosity that seemed to strip away her defenses. Peering straight into her broken soul, this was Dominic Rossi, the undisputed king of the city's underground, a man whose very name made billionaires and politicians tremble in fear. For several agonizing seconds, neither of them moved. The heavy rain washed over Elena, but she could only feel the searing weight of his gaze. "You're blocking my road, little bird," a voice purred from the dark interior. It was a deep, gravelly baritone, rich, smooth as silk, yet laced with a lethal edge that sent a violent shiver down Elena's spine. Elena opened her mouth to speak, but her throat was dry, her vocal cords raw from weeping. I'm sorry," she managed to gasp out, her teeth chattering uncontrollably from the freezing cold. She tried to push herself up, but her weak, trembling arms gave out, and she slumped back into the mud with a soft cry of pain. Subtle flick of Dominic's finger shattered the stillness. Instantly, the front driver's side door flew open. A tall, burly man dressed in a sharp black suit stepped out into the pouring rain, holding a massive black umbrella. He moved with the swift, precise efficiency of a trained mercenary. The man opened the rear door, extending the umbrella over the open entryway to shield his master from the elements. Dominic swung his long legs out of the car. His expensive leather shoes stepped directly onto the wet gravel, entirely unbothered by the rain soaking the hem of his tailored Italian trousers. He stood at his full height, imposing, towering, and terrifyingly powerful. He took 2 slow, deliberate steps forward until he stood directly over her, casting a massive shadow that completely swallowed her broken form. Elena shrank back, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. "Please," she whimpered, her hands clutching her soaked, muddy dress. "I'm leaving. Please don't hurt me." Dominic did not answer right away. He lowered his gaze, his hazel green eyes slowly tracing the path of tears mixing with raindrops on her pale face, taking in her bruised hands, her torn dress, and the utter despair radiating from her body. A faint, dangerous smirk touched the corner of his sculpted lips. "Hurt you?" Dominic mused, his voice dropping an octave as he casually took a sip from his glass. "It seems someone else has already done a thorough job of that." He shifted his gaze toward the towering iron gates of Vance Manor, his eyes narrowing into cold, lethal slits. He recognized the crest. He knew who lived behind those walls. "Leo Vance," Dominic murmured, pronouncing the name as if it were a mild annoyance he intended to crush under his heel. He returned his attention to Elena, leaning down slightly so his face was only inches from hers. The scent of rain mixed with the expensive, intoxicating aroma of cedarwood, dark tobacco, and faint copper filled her senses. "He threw you out like trash, didn't he?" Fresh tears welled up in Elena's eyes, stinging her raw skin. She bit her lower lip, trying desperately to hold back another sob, but a small, pathetic hiccup escaped her chest. She looked down at the mud, unable to bear the intensity of his stare. "Answer me, girl," Dominic commanded softly. The tone was gentle, almost a whisper, yet it carried an irresistible weight that demanded absolute obedience. "Yes," Elena whispered, her voice cracking completely. He said he never loved me. He said I was nothing." Dominic let out a low, dark chuckle that vibrated through the crisp night air. It was a terrifying sound, devoid of humor, yet full of dark promise. A fool playing with a treasure he lacks the intelligence to comprehend. Dominic remarked softly. He shifted his glass to his left hand. Slowly, deliberately, he reached out with his right, extending a long, black-gloved hand toward her. Elena stared at the gloved hand in disbelief. His fingers were large, capable of snapping her delicate neck with a single twist, yet they hovered before her with an unspoken invitation. "Why are you stopping?" Elena asked, her voice trembling as she looked up into those lethal hazel eyes. "You don't know me. I'm just a driver's daughter. I have nothing." Dominic's eyes flared with a sudden, scorching intensity that made her breath hitch. "You are kneeling in the dirt, bleeding for a boy who is not worthy to breathe the same air as you," Dominic said, his baritone slicing through the roar of the wind. "I do not care whose daughter you are, little bird. In my world, value is not inherited. It is claimed." He stepped closer, his shadow enveloping her entirely. "Now," Dominic murmured, his voice laced with a possessive, unyielding authority that left no room for refusal. "Take my hand or stay here and drown in your own tears for a coward." Elena stared at his outstretched hand, then looked back at the cold, closed gates of Vance Manor. The past was dead. Her love was destroyed. She had reached the absolute bottom of her life. Stripped of everything she had ever known, with trembling, icy fingers she reached out, her small, mud-stained hand settled into his broad, leather-clad palm. The moment her skin touched his glove, a jolt of warmth surged through her frozen veins. Dominic's fingers closed around hers with an iron grip, strong, protective, and completely inescapable. With effortless strength, he lifted her from the cold mud and pulled her straight to her feet. Elena stumbled from the sudden movement, her weak knees buckling, but Dominic caught her against his broad chest, holding her firmly against him. "Good girl," he purred against her hair, his breath warm against her frozen skin. He turned, carrying her effortlessly toward the warm, luxurious interior of the open Mabich dot as he placed her onto the soft leather seats. Elena looked back out the window one last time at the dark outline of the Vance estate. The rain continued to fall, but the cold no longer touched her. Dominic slid into the seat beside her, the heavy door shutting out the storm with a solid, echoing thud. The car pulled away, accelerating smoothly into the dark, rain-slicked night. Where are you taking me?" Elena asked, clutching her shivering arms as the car's heater began to blow soft warmth over her soaked clothes. Dominic leaned back into the shadows, taking a slow sip from his glass. His hazel eyes locked onto hers through the dark, gleaming with a dangerous, hungry promise. "To my kingdom, Elena," he replied softly, "where you will learn how to make them pay." That's the end of this chapter. The next chapter is coming very soon. Smash that subscribe button right now and drop a comment below so you won't miss the thrilling next plot twist. See you in the next chapter.